we can get started. So for those of you that don't know me, I am Amy Stevens. I'm the high school counselor here at Bellevue Big Picture. And I am joined tonight by Jane Berry from Bellevue College. Jane, would you mind sharing with everybody just a little bit about what you do over at Bellevue College?
So I work in the Running Start office at Bellevue College for the past 10 years for myself, but we help all of you with the intake of, applying, getting through the admissions. Once you're in the program, you'll learn more about it later, but you kind of want to think of the different buckets. You're still in high school, so if it's high school related, you're going to seek the advice of your high school. If it's pertaining to Bellevue College admissions, policy, classes, that you would want to seek from our office. And so kind of get the two figured out which person would give you the right information, but specific classes you might need, I can't really help you with that, but we can help you plan other class choices. But the presentation will give you a good overview.
Wonderful, thank you. All righty. So before we get too into everything, I just wanted to just talk a little bit about what we're going to go over tonight. This is really going to be an overview of what the Running Start program is and whether or not, it might be a good fit for you and your student. It is not intended to replace the required info sessions that Bellevue College does. They might go into some more specifics related to Bellevue College, but there's some nuances to Big Picture, and we'll kind of get into some of those as well as just an overview of what Running Start is. So to start, Running Start is a Washington State opportunity for high school students to earn both college credit and high school credit at the same time. It's called a dual credit program. So the requirements are that you must be a junior or senior. So we've invited our 10th and 11th grade families here tonight so that if they're interested in doing Running Start next year, we can get that process rolling. There are a couple of other requirements. If you plan on taking, an English or a math class, you'll need to look into the placement options so that you can actually enroll in those courses. And then you just must meet all of the program deadlines. And so a common phrase I hear is Running Start is free, and that is not true. The tuition for classes over the 100 level is covered for students. Students pay for books, they pay for class and student fees, parking, all of that. So students are sometimes surprised when they have a couple $100 charges on their account. And that has a lot to do with those course fees and things like that students and families are responsible for. That being said, it is a huge savings because tuition is covered. And I say over the 100 level because BSD 100 level and higher indicates that it's a college level course. Courses lower than that, BSD would actually prefer students take them in their high school because they're more at the high school level.
Could I just add one thing to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll get to it in a few more slides, but every quarter you all will have to get an enrollment verification form filled out. So based on what your high school says you're approved to take, if they say you can take 10 credits, 12 credits, 50, whatever the number is, that's how many tuition credits are covered. So if you go over that amount, you're going to be charged tuition along with any other normal fees. So
absolutely, yes, thank you. So I just wanted to, again, do another plug for the info sessions over at Bellevue College. They're a required component, but they will get into some of the more nitty-gritty stuff, and as well as just be an excellent resource for students and families if they have questions throughout the process. And so you can find that on their website and sign up for one of their upcoming info sessions. So Running Start and Big Picture. So Big Picture is a specialty program, and Running Start is a specialty program. So making the two mix can get a little interesting. It's totally doable, but it does come with some nuances. So Running Start full-time at Big Picture means that you are enrolled in advisory, third period, and you complete your Thursday internship for Big Picture. All your other classes would be at Bellevue College. That is just because the internship and advisory class, those are a required piece of the Big Picture model. But all of your other classes could be at Bellevue College if you wanted to do Running Start full time. I say this just because at a comprehensive high school where the advisory and internship program is not a requirement, the maximum number of credits that students can take is a little bit higher. So I'll get into that in more detail later. Running Start part-time means that you have a mix of Big Picture classes and Bellevue College classes. So the number of credits that you can take would vary based on how many classes you take here versus at Bellevue College. And we've got like a funding table that we work with students on to figure out what would be the best schedule to work for them. The other big thing I want to emphasize is that balancing a Big Picture schedule and a Bellevue College schedule can be challenging. Your Bellevue College classes should not conflict with your Big Picture classes or your Thursday internship. So if you're trying to register for a Bellevue College class that meets Monday through Friday, and every Thursday you're going to internship, you would be missing a fifth of that class. And we don't want students to be missing that much of any of their classes. So that's why we're asking students to not register for any classes that operate on Thursdays or any classes that conflict with any of their typical Big Picture classes. So I will say from experience that asynchronous and evening classes have worked well for many of our students because it just reduces some of that conflict in scheduling. The other big thing to note is that school breaks are not always aligned. So for example, we had midwinter break last week. So students were off from Big Picture and Bellevue College classes were still operating. So students are expected to continue going to classes at Bellevue College, even though we're on break at Big Picture, and the other way around. Yeah.
Could I share 2 points about that as well? So one thing that's really important when you're looking at the class schedule, you guys could all go onto the BC website and look at the class choices for spring to get an idea. Not every single class will be offered at night. It's really important that you're reading the class notes and description of the class, because what we are finding coming out of COVID is a lot of the asynchronous classes may be asynchronous, but maybe you have to come to campus for the actual exams. And so you should know that when you sign up for the class. And the other point, which just escapes my mind. Oh, the other thing is you talked about, missing some class. So there are many classes where the policy for the entire department, it's not your instructor, it's like the entire English department may have a policy. You miss more than 4 classes in a quarter, you will automatically fail, regardless if you submitted every A and aced every exam. That is their policy. They don't budge from it. So you can't really be missing classes. So to think that you can kind of just make up for it and just show up for the exams, that doesn't really work out. So if you sign up for a class and you're supposed to be in a class, you can often fail by just not showing up because you've missed too many points, so to say, towards your grade for that class. So don't get caught in that situation either. So
yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So I also just wanted to let all of our students and families know that we have updated our counseling website. So we have our Running Start page updated with our current Running Start packet that's going to include all of this information that we're talking about, as well as some required documents that need to be signed, and just helpful information. So you can take a look at that later when you have some time. But I just wanted to plug that that's out there and ready to go for you. And once we wrap this up, I will be able to post the recording as well. So we talked a little bit about part-time and what that might look like, how many credits you can do. So we are a little unique. So we have a different funding table than all of the comprehensive high schools in BSD. But essentially, if students were interested in doing Running Start full-time, they would just be enrolled in the LTI or internship class, which means the maximum number of credits that they could take at Bellevue College would be 13. At a comprehensive high school, it would be 15 credits. That's the maximum that can get covered for tuition. If students take 15 credits, even though the maximum is 13, they are responsible for paying for those additional 2 credits. The 13 will be covered, and the 2 that aren't covered are the responsibility of the students and the families. So I marked some of the more common schedules here because a lot of college classes are 5 credit classes, especially the ones that meet the BSD graduation requirements. So our students typically choose to do LTI only, and then they might choose to pay for the additional 2 credits, or they might find some 3 credit classes or 1 credit classes to make up and get to 13. Another common combination is the advisory class plus 2 other big picture classes. And that means that they can take a maximum of 9 or 10 credits over at Bellevue College. So that would be like maybe 2 5-credit classes. And then the last one is internship plus 4 big picture classes, because that can get you to 5 credits that you can take over at Bellevue College, which would equate to about 1 class. And so when you're thinking about this, another thing to note is that 1 high school credit is equal to 1 5-credit Bellevue College class. So not all, but most of our classes here at Big Picture, you earn 1 high school credit over the entire year. That means that a Bellevue College course, a 5-credit Bellevue College course, you're doing in 1 quarter or 10 weeks what you would do in a year in a high school class. So that just kind of gives you a hint at how much faster that pace is and how much more rigorous that course load is. So some of the benefits of Running Start. Free tuition as long as you are within that funding table that we work out. And part of the Running Start program is that students have to meet with their school counselor every single quarter to fill out an enrollment verification form where we indicate how many credits students are eligible to take. So another benefit is advanced coursework, right? This can be a more rigorous level. It's actually college classes. And so that can be an added bonus for students that are looking for that. Another common benefit I hear from students that they appreciate is the flexible schedules. So they might have some free time. If you are doing a part-time or a full-time Running Start program, you might have some free periods in your day to get some work done, things like that. Another component is tutoring at the Academic Success Center. And I will say I've seen some wonderful college essays come back from the writing lab that you guys have over there. They seem to really help students with some college admissions essays. And that is, a benefit or a perk that our Running Start students have access to. You also just develop a lot of independence. You're treated like college students. And we expect students to manage their time and kind of step up to that and be a little bit more independent. And then lastly, you can earn an associate's degree while in high school. I will say it can be challenging, especially with the big picture model and maybe not being able to take the full 15. So it would require kind of careful planning and maybe taking some summer classes that aren't covered through the Running Start program. I don't know if it'll be the same this year. I assume it will. Or I think this summer, Running Start classes won't be covered. Is that correct, Jane?
We haven't heard yet. Possibly it may, but there could be criteria associated with that, like who qualifies for that. You can always take summer classes. It's just a matter of who's going to pay for it. So,
Yes.
you can always take it, you pay for it yourself. But I really, you guys put a lot of pressure on yourselves too. most students do not earn the associate's degree. Of our seniors who leave our program, only 25% actually earn an associate's degree. So even if you earn 80 credits, 60 credits, 40 credits, you can still transfer those credits to the four-year school that you plan to go to. It doesn't mean if you don't earn that, it's all for nothing. So it's really better, it's class choice and getting good grades rather than cramming out an associate's degree, getting bad grades, and then maybe missing key classes that you would have been more useful taking as opposed to rounding out an associate's degree. So don't, that doesn't have to be the primary, that's your last goal, actually.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think I also see students kind of take running start classes that maybe are more of in line with what they want to major in or they want to explore as a major, and then they can talk about what they learned, how they grew from those running start classes in their college application essays. And so that's ways that you can use the running start program in your college applications, maybe without going for the AA, but still having a lot to talk about in terms of what you learned and how you grew. So I talked a little bit about this, but what do successful running start students look like? I cannot emphasize enough that students tend to do well if they're self-motivated, if they're independent, organized, if they're checking their emails so they know when deadlines are and know if they've got any issues with bills that need to be paid for those student fees that they're recovered for, all of that. It also, students that are doing academically well in high school tend to do a little bit better in running start. That is not always the case, but that it can be an indicator that students are a little bit more ready for that rigorous course load. And then using good time management skills and things like that. When students are in the running start program, we don't have access to their grades. We don't have access to their attendance. We don't know how they're doing. We only find out at the end of the quarter when we receive those final grades. And it's about every quarter we have at least one student fail a running start class. And it's really hard to predict where that will be. But that ends up on a permanent college transcript as well as your high school transcript. So we really want students to think about and kind of reflect on what kind of a student they are. Are they ready to step into those college classes and that college environment and be a little bit more independent? Then running start might be a good fit for you. Yeah. Jane, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I guess the biggest thing to really be sure you think about is a family, because you can have 3 siblings and 2 may be a good fit and 1 maybe not. It's not right for everybody, but you really, even though you're a running start, you may be 15, you are a college student and are treated and are held to the same expectations as all college students at Bellevue College. So you follow the same academic standing. You're coming in the door as a high school student, but once you decide to be in post-secondary education, the rights of the student belong to the student. So in K-12, parents can call your instructor. Your parents can get involved. They can act on behalf of you. Parents can't do that in college. So parents out there, like, it's good to assist them, maybe have you be CC'd, or like, please just don't do things for them. If they're not able to do it on their own, they're probably not ready for college. And they can show you what they've done. They can review emails that they receive back, but they are treated. We had a 10-year-old in the program. I never talked to the mom. The student took care of everything. And so it doesn't matter your age, you are in college, you will be treated as a college student. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we've touched on a couple of these, but some of the challenges of running start, again, is there are some fees associated with it, with the books, transportation, course fees, lab fees, those kinds of things. So they can be a couple of $100s per quarter, depending on how many classes you're taking and what classes you're taking. And I mentioned some about the scheduling challenges with breaks not aligning, class times not aligning. And then you must meet your high school graduation requirements. That is my #1 priority for all of our students, and it's why you need to meet with me every single quarter so we can make sure that you are still on track to graduate. Jane touched on this, but families don't have access to course grades or attendance due to FERPA privacy laws. And then credits may not fully transfer to some private schools or out-of-state universities. You would need to check with them, and it's up to them whether or not they accept those credits. Within Washington State, there is a kind of an agreement about some of these courses, and so a lot of these credits can transfer. But when you're thinking about out-of-state schools or private schools, it's kind of up to those universities, and you would need to reach out to them. So again, that independence and responsibility is required, and that fast pace and time demands of college classes. So if you're thinking about how much you do in your English classes all year at Big Picture, think about doing that in 10 weeks, especially for, writing classes and things like that. You might be writing essays, longer essays in a much shorter period of time. So think about what are some classes that you feel strongest in? What are maybe some classes where you'd like some more support in? And maybe that's how you decide what classes to take at Running Start, or if Running Start's even a good fit for you. And then I just want to reiterate again that you must attend your 7-hour internship on Thursdays uninterrupted. We can't have students leaving for a couple of hours to go to a Bellevue College class. You have to be at your internship uninterrupted for those 7 hours. So some of our BSD and Big Picture Running Start policies. So students they must enroll during the enrollment period this spring. We are going to ask students to indicate if they're doing Running Start and kind of figure out what classes they're going to do here, what classes they want to do at Bellevue College. And we are designing our master schedule, what classes we're offering next year based on that information. If you indicate that you're going to take your English classes over at Bellevue College, great. We are making decisions on our end and scheduling on our end based off that information. So if you change your mind in the fall, we might not have room for you in one of those classes. So that's why we're asking students to think about it, make your decisions this spring, so that we all have the same information and we're operating on the same stuff. And so you can be registered for classes for the fall during that registration period a little bit earlier. You must also turn in the signed, they call it a contract, it's more just a communication to me, making sure that you have read through the communication agreement about what the expectations are for Running Start. After school starts in the fall, no Big Picture classes will be dropped to accommodate Running Start classes. So if you find out that there's a conflict in your classes, we're not going to be able to drop you from those because we made decisions about what classes we offer and what teachers are teaching what based on that information. So no Big Picture classes will be dropped. And then after Running Start classes begin, no big picture classes can be added for credit. So we're really asking students to make that decision and stick with it. So the scheduling, that's where the scheduling conflicts might come in. You might not know what your Big Picture schedule is until August, but you're registering for Bellevue College in the spring. And that's where evening classes or asynchronous classes and checking all of the required dates and stuff like that is going to be really important when you register for the spring, so you don't have any conflicts or issues in the fall when we return. And then lastly, students must make an appointment with me every quarter to fill out their EVF form. There will be a hold on your registration if you don't complete that EVF form, and you won't be able to register for classes. And that is really just, it helps the schools know how many credits you can take at each place, but it also makes sure that you're registering for classes that will meet your graduation requirements. All righty. Jane, do you want to take on some of the running start next
Sure,
steps?
sure. It's not extremely complicated, but just some key points I want to make. Obviously, I'll just read the first one. Review the info presented here, weigh your options for next year. That's what's really important to kind of decide as a family what you think might work. Check our BC website. Even when you're an existing student, when you're here, go to the BC website, go to the search box and just type in Running Start. It'll take you to our page. On the left side, there'll be information about admissions. We do want you to attend one of our information sessions. That some of them are held through Teams, and we do have some on campus. But the things you need to do is keep in mind you will need to complete both the Running Start intent form. That lets our office know, hey, Johnny Smith is interested in coming. Be sure you put the correct quarter. So if you're coming in the fall, don't put spring. Be sure you pick the correct quarter that you're going to be coming. When you complete the Bellevue College application, it makes no sense why you would not choose the Running Start application, but you will not use the Running Start application. You're going to choose a first year student. And again, you're going to choose the quarter that you're going to begin. So you're going to fill out all the information for fall quarter. It will ask you to pick a program of study, which is not going to put you in any kind of pigeonhole. You can put undecided. The one thing I should have had them add to the screen, one thing you should not, it doesn't matter what you pick, but do not pick transitional studies. Transitional studies is not the right one, but you have access to it because you are doing the first year student. So then let's say you do it tonight. You probably may not get your set of instructions for like a week or two. So we might get 50 applicants one day, we might get 300 the next. It's really important that you're checking your spam folder. That first email from us might go into your junk or spam folder. So don't just be checking from your smartphone, check from a desktop because sometimes you don't see the spam folders on your phone. And then all your instructions will be on that letter from us with your student ID and all your instructions from Running Start. Print it out, stick it on your refrigerator, and that's your reference point, right? If you do have questions, you're going to send all your questions to Running Start new student at bellevuecollege.edu. That way the admissions team is helping all the new students. The other thing I can't emphasize enough is it doesn't cost you anything to apply. So it's far better for you to do the application and get the ball rolling. And whatever your high school says, like, whatever the final date of you deciding, it sounds like there definitely is a date. But let's say you go through the whole process and maybe in August you decide, oh boy, I really want to go back to my high school. This isn't going to work out for me. It's fine on our end. You want to make sure with your high school, what is that last date you need to make those decisions by? But I'd rather you kind of do the entire process and then back out than to wait, and then not be able to get into classes. Your goal, because you guys came and are on Johnny on the spot, your goal is to be registered in classes by end of May. So the applications are open. The enrollment for fall quarter begins second week of May. So ideally, if you do everything that is expected of you and you turn in your form, and you should be able to register no later than June 1st. If you all are here, there shouldn't be any delay. Like we were told you earlier, if you plan to take English, you plan to take math, if you plan to take most sciences, you will need math placement. You have to get the placement done. You can't, if you can't get into a class and it's like, oh, but I took that in high school. We don't know what you took in high school. Nothing's in the computer until you provide us that documentation and the placements in the computer. And all that's going to be in your email. So don't need to worry about that. But you don't have to take a test. It's pretty much submitting your high school transcript. But that I can't emphasize enough. Get the policy going, get into classes. And if you decide to back out, then that's not a problem at all. So I think that's it for this slide.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you touched on this a little bit already, but yes, you all will have a copy of your unofficial transcript in Student View under documents that you can download, so you can submit this to Bellevue College so they can look at the math classes or the English classes that you took and complete their placement.
And you won't do this until, you're not going to do it tonight. You're going to wait for your instructions and it'll walk you through exactly what you need to do. But just don't forget this stuff. Yeah.
Yes, I've had a few students find out that they hadn't completed the placement thing right when they're trying to register. So then they've got to do the placement before they can actually get into the classes, and it delays when they can actually register for those classes. So getting it done and out of the way well before you need to register will help that process move a little bit more smoothly.
So I think this might, so after you've applied, complete the intent form and receive communication, then this is back on you. Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I'll say something at the end of this, so yeah.
Yeah, so that's when you will set up an appointment with me, and we will run through kind of that EVF form and look at the graduation requirements, what are classes that you still need. You will turn in that communication contract to me so that I have that on file. They switched it up this year so that there is a way to sign digitally. So that's the version on our website has that digital form that you can sign. And then once we've met, we've picked out those classes, signed it, got everything all ready to go, that's when you submit the EVF form to Bellevue College. I don't take it from there. The students take it from there. They're responsible for sharing that with Bellevue College so that they know how many credits you can take, and they can process it and remove that hold on your account so you can actually register for classes. And so you just need to follow the steps. Otherwise, you might run into issues. But if you follow the steps, you'll be able to register for those classes.
And just keep in mind, we do, like, sometimes people will scan it into our office and then they think their block's going to be removed. So we need time to process your document. And we might have 50 come in the night before. We might have 500 come in the night before. All of our staff works as fast as we can. Sometimes it can be 4 or 5 days from when you submit it that we can get it cleared. We will always respond when we are looking at the document, and we either process it and then we respond back to the person who sent it to us, and we'll let you know, hey, your form's been processed, you're clear to register for fall, whatever it is. Or if there's something missing, if you forgot to sign the document, if you forgot to put the grade level, if there's an important piece that's missing, we don't accept it, and we highlight it and send it back to you, and it's like, tell you what the problem is. So your email is going to be your lifeline. If you're not checking that, you might miss some really important information. So please get in the habit, your BC email or whatever email you're communicating with us through the admissions process, you need to be checking that daily. So.
Yeah, and I can just share on my end, I know that they are wonderful at sending out those reminders to students about when to start thinking about your EVF form, when to start that process so that it is done and completed well before registration opens. So that's the ideal time, checking your email, making sure you're following that and jumping on it so that by the time registration opens, you're ready to go and you can select your classes. So what to think about when selecting classes. So you can take classes at Bellevue College as long as you meet the prerequisites. So prerequisites are just the requirements that students must meet in order to enroll in a class. The placement process is an example of that. If you want to take an English class, you need to, a requirement is that you must be placed into whatever level English class that you want to take. So if you're looking at English 101, you need to complete that placement process. Other courses, a science class might require that you take a biology class before you take this other science class. So you need to read the course descriptions carefully, look for dates, and look for prerequisites to make sure that you can actually take that course. And then enrollment in specific classes is not guaranteed. If you complete your EVF form with me early and get that submitted early, the chances that the classes that you're interested will still be open or higher. So we want to get started on that process early. But even if it's a class that you super need for graduation requirement, if it's full, right? And so that's where we really want students to be checking their emails and managing their time and submitting that stuff on time so that they can get the classes that they need. And another piece of that will be the course equivalency guide. So that's a huge part of what I talk with students about. In our one-on-ones for the EVF form, we talk about, you know, if you need to meet your civics credit, you need to take this specific Bellevue College class. So we don't want to have any kind of hiccups where maybe you need to retake a history class because you didn't sign up for the one that meets the equivalent version of the BSD class. So that is also included in the packet that we have online. So you will have a copy of that equivalency guide. But that's also something that I work with students on one-on-one every single quarter. And so we are joined here by Jane Berry from Bellevue College. That is partially because most of our students, in fact, I think all of our students end up at Bellevue College because they are our neighbors. They're very close and it's super convenient. But you are not tied to Bellevue College. You can, if there's other schools that are of interest to you or maybe are closer to you, those are also available to you to do Running Start at. This just, you know, Bellevue College is within walking distance, so it tends to be pretty convenient for our students. So I believe I've got the Q&A open if you guys have any questions or anything that you would like to ask. We've got some time left if there are any questions that Jane and I can answer for you tonight. It looks like there's already one in there. Should they use their BSD email or a personal email? I'm assuming this is on their application. Jane, does it matter on your end?
Well, please don't use high school emails. Typically, there's firewalls that are part of your high school email. So probably, you know, the student should be applying. The student should use their email. Yeah.
Yeah, and just whatever email that you use, make sure that that's the one you're checking on a regular basis.
And type it accurately. A lot of times we have, you know, the things are transposed and we send stuff out and it bounces back and it's, yeah, so.
Absolutely. So if there are any other questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I also just wanted to point out a couple of resources. So this slide deck will be shared. And so you'll have access to the email to ask questions to over at Bellevue College. You know where to find me in the counseling suite. But I also encourage everybody to refer to the digital packet if you have questions. The answer might be in there, as well as checking out the Bellevue College Running Start website. I do it all the time. It's a wonderful resource. They've got excellent information on there that is clearly explained. So I highly encourage you to check that out as well. And another question just came in. All Bellevue College courses can be viewed on the website. Jane, do you want to take that one?
So that's the question. So like right now you can see spring. So y'all can go into the website, the blue tabs at the top. One of those is classes. So you can go and see the spring classes right now. Typically classes post about 2 weeks before the registration opens. So probably May 1st, you'll see fall. Summer and fall open up at the same time. But get a sense of like, be familiar with like how to read those classes. Like I said, the notes are really important. What I found with Bellevue College in the last several quarters is, especially with English 101, sometimes they combine classes with like a below English, like English 092 and 101. So if you have placement into 101, you don't want to try to get into the class that is designed to also be taken with English 092. That's not a good thing. If it says, if you need a permission code, it's pretty much a special class for a special cohort. So that's all in the notes. If it says this class is only designed for student athletes, then you're not going to be able to be in that class because you're not going to be a student athlete. You guys can take, you can do anything at the college except be on a sports team. You can be in a club, you can run for off, you can do anything any other college student can do. But those are kind of key things with the classes. Be familiar. If you can't have classes on Thursday, try to find a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. When you go to the class schedule, be familiar with looking at the filters. You can filter out and just show online classes, or just show certain days of the week classes, just evening classes. And you can also filter for classes that have seats open. There's no sense looking for classes that are already full. And so those filtering things really can help you narrow it down, because sometimes there's so many sections, and some of them are designed for college and the high school. Even though they're posted on the website, they have a big asterisk usually, or exclamation point. So just because they're posted there doesn't mean that you might be able to register for it. If you're not in that cohort group, it won't allow you to register. So
wonderful. And, you know, Jane, I have to say, one question that I get pretty common or frequently is, if I've taken a college and the high school class, do I need to apply again for Running Start?
yes, yes. So you do have a CTC number. You already have a CTC number, but you need to apply, and you need to do the intent form. There's no way that we know that you plan to come unless you do the intent. The intent form will allow us to send you the instructions. So you're kind of applying with a general college, but we don't do the applications. And so we don't know that you're coming unless you tell us and we find you and send you the instructions that you need. So.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And it doesn't cost you anything. So yeah, you can apply every day of the week if you want, but don't do that. So.
Thank you. I think we answered this, but just for clarity, can you remind us when fall class registration opens?
So in the academic calendar, this is stuff you have access to now, and it's going to be extremely important if you are a student. Go to the BC website. When you're in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see online services. Click on online services, and then you'll find the academic calendar. So the academic calendar is going to tell you all kinds of information. I believe registration opens for existing students, I think like May 7th, and then brand new students have a couple days later. So a common question we get is, Running Start students always register last? No, you don't. So existing students in the program get to register before brand new people. But once you're in classes, everybody's time to register is based on how many credits you've earned. And so, you know, you and your buddy might both have the same number of credits, but maybe they open up at 3 o'clock and your registration opens up at 1 o'clock, just because we can't have 20,000 students registering at the same time, same day, all that stuff. So as you earn more and more credits, your registration will be sooner. But I think it's like May 8th is when brand new students, assuming you've done everything and we've processed your enrollment form. If you send us your enrollment form on May 8th, we may not be able to process it for 4 or 5 days, but once we do, you should be good to go. So don't get too, like, if you can just register by, you got to get that form in your hands before school closes for summer. So that's like, and if you're going to get your form in your hands before school closes, it's nice just to be in classes before school closes as well. So if you're here watching this right now, there really should be no reason that you wouldn't be able to be in classes by the end of May. There really should be no reason other than maybe there's a delay. So yeah.
Thank you. If there are any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Something else I wanted to mention for our big picture students is, if you drop a Bellevue College class, you are required to let us know. We will have to, our Running Start students, all of our students are required to be enrolled at a 1.0 FTE. They need to have a full schedule. So if you signed up for a Running Start class and dropped it and didn't enroll in another one, we're going to have to push you back into a big picture class, and it might not be one that you want, or might not be one that fits what you need. It's just where we have space. So that's where communicating very early if you're planning on dropping any classes, and working with us so we can kind of figure out other classes that might work, things like that. But we have to re-enroll students in big picture classes if they're not fully enrolled between Bellevue College and big picture.
And that brings up a good point of not being in the trend of dropping classes. So every quarter there are windows of time, and just like we said earlier, you kind of have to keep what you need to know for high school versus what you need to know for BC. So we may send you information, but you need to know in your head the details of your high school, right? So there's a window of time every quarter that you can drop a class and it never appears on your transcript, or you drop a class and a W appears. That just happened. February 26th was the last day a student could drop a class for winter quarter and get a W on their grade. So if they kind of knew that they were failing or for whatever reason, they could still drop the class. At this point, students in the class don't have that option. They're going to earn the grade that they earn, but you really don't want, like, W's on your transcript are not great. Like, you might want to have 1, 2 probably might be okay, but like if you have multiple W's all throughout your transcript, that is not going to look great if your goal is to go off to college and you're submitting that for a transcript. A, it won't look good in general. B, it could impact your ability to get financial aid down the road, which is typically a concern for most every student out there, right? And so it's not a good thing to have a ton of those on there. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. So
Absolutely. Thank you. All righty. So I don't see any other questions in the chat. I guess, Jane, any final thoughts before we wrap stuff up?
No.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you all again for joining us on your Wednesday evening. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And we'll be kicking off a lot of this registration stuff. We just started with our juniors today. Our 10th graders are next week. So things are going to be moving. So be sure to check emails and things like that. And thank you again for showing up. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you for inviting me to come. Thank you.
Thank you.